You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Welcome back to Engage, the show where Norman and I get to engage with your comments about the topics that we bring up on Mission Log. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Norman Lau. And you're absolutely right, John. What we'd love to do here on Mission Log Engage is to engage with all of you. We take a look at the comments or the messages or the emails that we encourage everybody to send in, whether it's about the podcast or whether it's just an idea that you want to discuss with us. We love hearing from you, our listeners and our fans and our friends.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing today. So we recently did our Season 1 Voyager wrap-up episode. And one of our listeners, Jane, said, hey, there was something that I really wish that you had commented on, and sent in a little bit longer email. So why don't you share that email with us, and we'll dive right in.
Alrighty, this is from Jane. I would like to discuss Star Trek franchise deciding to cast a female captain in Voyager. At this point, it is hard to think of any other actor portraying the role of Captain Janeway but Kate Mulgrew. Casting could not have gotten it any better. The first female captain could have been a huge disaster and an epic fail. If Captain Janeway came off as too soft and motherly or too stern and manly, we may have seen a much shorter series. Especially the first season, trying to balance the responsibilities of a Starfleet captain leading her trained crew while understanding and embracing the Maquis took the skill of a consummate professional, that being Mulgrew. Not only did the demanding character have to deal with merging two diverse crews, but was called to make alliances with and defend it against unknown species while navigating Voyager through uncharted space. And that without Starfleet as backup. Yet all the while keeping and giving us the slightest vulnerabilities, that is her love, music, literature, and need for coffee. I think that Mulgrew as Janeway, not too hard and not too soft, made Voyager what it has become. Just right. Goldilocks, John. That's Goldilocks.
The Goldilocks. Okay. Well,
Right?
First of all, so I love this because Jane very clearly spelling out her fandom for Janeway. And I have to say that, for all the Star Trek that I had watched over the years and had watched Voyager before our rewatch for Mission Log, you kind of forget certain aspects of captains and or certain details of a show, and then you come back as we are now doing our deep dive into Voyager, and it has been great even in that first season, just really getting to know this new captain and seeing what a change Janeway is from who came before her, who, primarily Kirk, Picard, and Sisko. And that was basically it. Obviously, we met other captains, but didn't spend nearly as much time with them as we did those three. And I have to agree with Jane here, First of all, in the 90s, there would have been appropriately the question that we would have now, which is, why did it take this long to get a female captain who is, in a prominent position on a series, much less, her very own series. So that's one thing, that it was a big deal in the 90s when this happened. At the same time, it might have felt a little behind the curve. There was a lot riding on it because there's a lot riding on a new TV show anyway, and there's a lot riding on the flagship show for this newfangled UPN network as it was. But to me, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day who was saying what a favorite Anson Mount is as Captain Pike. And I said, there are aspects, they were describing sort of the brashness of Kirk and the diplomacy of Picard. And I said, well, let me throw in one other thing, because Janeway is the first captain that we really remember, that I really remember them making a point in an episode of her saying, I need to get to know my crew and have this really personal bond with that crew. And that became a plot point. It became something really important. And what do we see in Strange New Worlds? We see Captain Pike doing the same thing, cooking for them, hanging out, getting to know them. And it balances this professional and personal aspect that I think Janeway was really the trailblazer for. What do you think about what our friend Jane here has to say?
Well, it must have been really difficult to continue to create new series with a new captain in the way that they need to build on previous captains. You had Kirk, and that lasted from, 2 decades until they needed to recast for a brand new captain. So how do we differentiate our new captain from Kirk? Well, Picard generationally is older and has a much different tact to him. He has a much different style. But then the next generation is obviously successful, so we're going to spin off into our next captain. How are we going to make him?
Yeah.
But her isn't actually part of that equation yet. How are we going to make him? Oh, well, he has to be not white.
Yep.
Obviously, because we've had 2 white captains and the fans have spoken. So we're going to deal with, a black actor.
Live up to the diversity of Star Trek. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's always hinges on the captain. Like the diversity of a series, I believe, always hinges on the choices of who they're going to make as captain. Not necessarily the support crew. That's where a lot of diversity can backfill in, and appease the audience, appease what the audience has requested. But it's always about the captain. So after Cisco, they must have some type of a chart saying, okay, we can't do this again. We can't do this again. We can't do this again. So what are your choices at the time? An Asian lead actor? Or a female actor, or a female Asian lead actor, or a black female actor, right? You're really kind of like whittling down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is and it isn't because of the risk involved based on what the audience is going to accept. And I really do think that, aside from Genevieve Bujold's casting, which didn't work, and they figured it out early. Yeah. I think that Kate just came in with the right amount of everything. And that's very rare. And I think that that's something that it's definitely has to be lauded and applauded, because being able to do that behind the 8 ball, to do caretaker, to get her tone just right at the very beginning, and especially by, say, Eye of the Needle or Phage, absolutely phenomenal.
Well, and that's really the magic element right there, because we've seen the test footage with Genevieve Bujold, and you kind of watch it, and everybody who saw that, who was on the production side, said, something about this isn't going to work, so we need to make a major change here. And you can tell just right from the first moment that Kate Mulgrew as that character is in command, and she just owns that character. She actually just slips right into it like she was born to play it. And that made me a Janeway fan right from the beginning, and certainly enjoying the journey as we go on into season 2 and beyond. So, Jane, thank you for this email. Certainly don't disagree with you. It's sort of the right combination of the right move to put this character in the position that she's in, and the right casting to put absolutely phenomenal actor in that role. And look, now we get to talk about this for the next 3.5 years.
And so thank you, Jane, for sending in your email. And if anyone out there listening to the podcast would like to share your comments, or your thoughts with us, make sure that you send them in to missionlog@roddenberry.com. Make sure you subscribe to this playlist here on the Roddenberry Entertainment channel on YouTube. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Mission Log Pod. And remember, if you send them in, we may engage with your comments on the air.